This session is entitled Dune, a study in adaptation. This session features our fantasy studies sector and will be presented by Dr. Julian Barr. Now, after completing his PhD in classical studies at the University of Queensland and graduate diploma in secondary education at the Queensland University of Technology, Julian presented the academic monograph Tertullian and the Unborn Child through Routledge, as well as several articles on classical mythology and rhetoric. A lifelong devotee of fantasy, Julian has also published the epic Ashes of Olympus trilogy through Odyssey books, as well as the Norse-inspired Tooth and Blade. Julian has taught several space modules on creative writing and literature. I'm going to drop a little bit of information about his module in chat. And also a question for everybody. How many film directors have attempted to adapt Dune, included successful and unsuccessful attempts? And I know of 4. So I'm probably wrong about that. So over to you, Julian.
Hi, everybody. It's really great to be here. Apologies in advance if I am a little bit bleary. It has just gone 6 a.m. here. The sun's not quite up. The kookaburras are singing. Um, it's so great to be here, and it's so great to see everybody. So this class really started as an offshoot of my uh, uh, series of book clubs reading Dune. We've started with Frank Herbert's book, the original, and we've gone right up through to Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson's Sandworms of Dune. Um, and I guess that it was also watching Other Minds and Hands that got me thinking about adaptation as a concept and just how many people have tried to tackle Dune over the years. If you just give me 1 second, I'm going to share my screen. We'll make sure we share sound because we're going to be watching some videos. Okay, so yes, this one's going to be a hybrid format. That is to say, we're going to be having a lecture and then a discussion. Basically, the format is we'll have a lecture about the making of various different adaptations and what each one was trying to achieve and uh, different approaches to the same story. Um, Followed by a class which is just purely discussion, where we just chat about the movie. It- Everyone's encouraged, but not obliged, of course, to um, uh, uh, watch or rewatch the films. And yeah, look, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's been confirmed for August. So to answer the question, I have managed to find at least 9, although it occurred to me after I made this list, that I probably could have gone a lot further. There have been a lot of filmmakers who expressed interest in Dune right from the get-go. A lot of them, their interest basically didn't go much further than putting their hand up to say that they would consider it. I've included on this list, just filmmakers who invested a considerable amount of time into pre-production, at least. First one, during the late 60s, David Lean uh, actually came quite close to going into production. He was working with Andrew Jacobs of the Planet of the Apes franchise. Um, this one did not work out because it was largely torpedoed by a Writers Guild strike during the early 70s. Um, and unfortunately, Jacobs passed away not long after that. Um, it would have been a very interesting film. Uh, it People who have read the script kind of described it as a cross between 2001: A Space Odyssey and Lean's own Lawrence of Arabia in tone. Uh, then, of course, we have the infamous adaptation by Chilean filmmaker Alejandro Jodorowsky. Apologies, I probably just mispronounced that. Uh, this would have been a trip, I can tell you that. Uh, it was going to be it was envisioned as sort of a film of 9 to 10 hours. It would have been highly surreal, almost satirical in its tone. If you're familiar with Jodorowsky's background, this will come as no surprise to you. Um, Absolutely sumptuous artwork, design. Uh, and this one actually got quite a way into pre-production to the point where sets were being built. All of the main roles had been cast. Orson Welles would have played the evil Baron Harkonnen. Um, it fell apart pretty spectacularly. Uh, the filmmaker burned through his entire budget before a single frame of film had been shot. Um, and investors were understandably a little bit freaked out. And it just kind of fell apart. It would have been fascinating. Salvador Dali was going to play the Emperor Shaddam. Um, for apparently a rate of $100,000 per hour that he was on set. Uh, um, Its legacy lives on, though. A lot of the artwork that was produced, um, basically, they produced a lookbook of about 1,000 pages. Um, uh, and that was distributed quite widely in Hollywood. Um, uh, a lot of the look of the film kind of eventually made its way into the movie The Fifth Element. Um, Jodorowsky had no interest whatsoever in following the plot of the book. Uh, he was just kind of doing his own thing. Uh, Frank Herbert, the author of Dune, was not entirely confident in this one. The rights then passed to Italian producer Dino De Laurentiis, of course. Uh, Initially hired Ridley Scott, um, who turned in a draft of the script, which he's said he's very proud of. Frank Herbert uh, vetoed this one. He didn't like the fact that it was apparently quite faithful to the book, except that it added, for some bizarre reason, an incestuous subplot that was never in the book um, between the hero Paul Atreides and his mother. And then, of course, Ridley Scott's brother unfortunately passed away. Scott also realized that it was going to be an investment of years, plural, if he was going to see his vision um, brought to life. Uh, and he stepped away. Uh, David Lynch, of course, took the reins. His film, the 1984 film of Dune, was the first attempt to bring Dune to the screen, a successful attempt to bring Dune to the screen. Um, it bombed financially. It did not do very well. It got horrible reviews. David Lynch does not like to talk about it now. Uh, for a while, the interest in Dune kind of fell dormant until writer-director John Harrison uh, uh, produced a TV miniseries in 2000. This one's very, very interesting to me because It's probably the most faithful to the original text out of all of the adaptations. Um, it goes into great depth with the world building. It was filmed on an extremely low budget. There was no money for location shooting in deserts. Um, uh, so it was filmed entirely in the studio. It was filmed in Czechoslovakia, which results in some interesting casting choices, to say the least. But you know what? I find it really it's a well-written adaptation. It's quite solid, and I'm actually quite impressed by what they managed to achieve with the tiny budget that they had. Um, Paramount Pictures. Oh yes, I should mention. Apparently there was a group of Spanish film students who completed an 8 or 9 hour epic version of Dune. Uh, in the Spanish language, and they put it up on the trailer up on the internet, and it was subsequently torpedoed by the Herbert estate, which is a shame. Uh, um, Paramount Pictures acquired the rights. Peter Berg and Pierre Morel were both circling the project for a while, but it fell apart. And then finally, we get Denis Villeneuve's most recent adaptation. So you can see Dune has had a very long storied history when it comes to adaptation. For today, I thought maybe we could take a look at Herbert's opening for Dune and what three different filmmakers, very different filmmakers, have made of it. He begins, of course, with the book features epigraphs written by the character Princess Irulan. She starts, a beginning is the time for taking the most delicate care that the balances are correct. This every sister of the Bene Gesserit knows. To begin your study of the life of Muad'Dib, our hero Paul Atreides, then, take care that you first place him in his time. Born in the 57th year of the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, and take the most special care that you locate Muad'Dib in his place, the planet Arrakis. Do not be deceived by the fact that he was born on Caladan and lived his first 15 years there. Arrakis, the planet known as Dune, is forever his place. There's a lot there, which I won't go into because I want to focus on the way that different filmmakers have tried to adapt this opening passage. And what I'd like us to do for the second half of today's capsule, I'd like us to watch the prologue sequence from the different versions of Dune, and compare what they're doing to the original, and see if we can find uh, divergences in what they focus on, and also similarities. To what extent are these different versions talking to one another? So just pop your thoughts into the chat. We'll watch the three versions, and we'll come back for a bit of a conversation. So away we go.
A beginning is a very delicate time. Know then that it is the year 10,191. The known universe is ruled by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, my father. In this time, the most precious substance in the universe is the spice melange. The spice extends life. The spice expands consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel. The Spacing Guild and its navigators, who the spice has mutated over 4,000 years, use the orange spice gas, which gives them the ability to fold space. That is, travel to any part of the universe without moving. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you. The spice exists on only one planet in the entire universe. A desolate, dry planet with vast deserts. Hidden away within the rocks of these deserts are a people known as the Fremen, who have long held a prophecy that a man would come, a Messiah, who would lead them to true freedom. The planet is Arrakis, also known as Dune.
Gosh, I'm going to give credit to the actress who plays Irulan in these films. Uh, uh, it's very difficult to her gaze into the camera is so intense, and it I think took real talent to be able to deliver that monologue, and keep a straight face. Um, This one, the prologue was not Lynch's original intention. He was originally going to begin with a much more disorienting beginning, starting with the Fremen, which you can still find if you have a look around on the internet for the Spice Diver edit of Lynch's film. Uh, let's move forward. Let's talk about the miniseries and have a look at that.
Arrakis. Dune. Wasteland of the Empire. And the most valuable planet in the universe. Because it is here, and only here, where spice is found. The spice. Without it, there is no commerce in the Empire. There is no civilization. Arrakis. Dune. Home of the spice. Greatest treasure in the universe. And he who controls it controls our destiny.
Okay. Similar but different. We still have Irulan narrating the opening, framing the narrative. She doesn't appear, which is kind of ironic because the miniseries actually gives her a much bigger role than any previous adaptation. Um, uh, Her narration focuses exclusively on Arrakis and its centrality to the plot. I think that if you're going to pick one thing that the audience absolutely had to know going into Dune is the significance of spice and why everyone is fighting over control of the spice industry within the Imperium. Finally, let's take a look at the prologue from Denis Villeneuve's film. Very markedly different from anything that's come previously.
My planet Arrakis is so beautiful when the sun is low. Rolling over the sands, you can see spice in the air. At nightfall, the spice harvesters land. The outsiders race against time to avoid the heat of the day. They ravage our lands in front of our eyes. Their cruelty to my people is all I've known. These outsiders, the Harkonnens, came long before I was born. By controlling spice production, they became obscenely rich. Richer than the Emperor himself. Our warriors couldn't free Arrakis from the Harkonnens. But one day, by imperial decree, they were gone. Why did the Emperor choose this path? And who will our next oppressors be?
There we shall leave watching videos. I'm interested in some of the comments that have been coming through, and feel free to add any more to the chat as we continue in our last few minutes. Jean points out that most of the miniseries budget must have gone to Hollywood actors. Yes, I suspect that is indeed where most of the budget went. Uh, uh, it's interesting. I'd consider the miniseries to be a blood relative to Babylon 5. In fact, a lot of the effects people worked on both shows. In terms of its production value. Uh, James points out the influence of Jodorowsky's film on later films, particularly Ridley Scott's Alien, and Blade Runner. Eventually, Scott went on to direct Blade Runner, and Denis Villeneuve, his first huge sort of, well, not quite his first, one of his first major films was the sequel, Blade Runner 2049, and it was the success of this that kind of led to him getting the golden ticket to make Dune. So it's funny how things kind of come full circle. Um, One of the interesting themes about Frank Herbert's work is the nature of history, and Herbert argues that history basically works as a sine wave, a constantly repeating pattern. It's interesting to see that that's kind of true in terms of the history of the adaptation of Dune as well. Yes, I could do an entire module just on the different versions of Lynch's film. It was carved up into a mini-series that featured a lot of the deleted scenes. An even more confusing prologue was added. And for whatever reason, they cut Princess Irulan from that version. Yes. Lauren points out that Irulan narrating at the beginning and maintaining eye contact, looking directly at the camera is really, really impactful. Uh, she's talking directly to the reader, very much trying to replicate the effect of the original the epigraphs. Um, and also the 2021 prologue, Lauren says, is a visual delight, uh, as well as a great info dump to get the audience caught up for the story. Yeah, I'd agree with that too. The Out of all of the prologues, it's so interesting that in my view, the most effective one is from Denis Villeneuve's film. Uh, and he drops Irulan from the opening narration completely, for at least for the first film. Um, and unlike the previous two, he's very much using visuals to tell the story. He's showing rather than telling. Um, uh, we kind of get everything that we need to know very quickly just from the look. The planet Arrakis, desert world, being stripped of its resources. Um, uh, the indigenous people, the Fremen, fighting uh, the spice miners, the kind of imperial operation which is going on there. Um, it's also the first one that introduces the Harkonnens and barely touches on sort of the broader geopolitics of the universe. One of the other things I find really interesting is to look at the very different ways that the Fremen, the indigenous people of Arrakis, are portrayed, comparing uh, the original 84 film to the more recent one. As you point out, Gene, uh, the 2021 film centers the story on the Fremen and their struggle. Uh, the original film, the 84 film, it presents the Fremen as hidden in the rocks of Arrakis, awaiting the arrival of a messiah who will lead them to freedom. Uh, the 21 film is very different. They're Fremen, they're not passively sitting back and waiting for someone to come and save them. They're fighting for Arrakis right from the very beginning. And indeed, uh, one of the questions that Herbert asks is this idea of a savior, is this idea of a messianic, charismatic leader actually a good thing? Uh, and Villeneuve's film, I think, tackles that question a lot more than the 84 film. Yes, I found it very interesting. It finishes with the question, who will our next oppressors be? And we cut to Paul Atreides, the hero, uh, which is not how the book opens. It doesn't open with a dream sequence. And it seems to me that the idea of the dream sequence has been carried over from the miniseries to the 2021 film, but repurposed in a very different way. On that cheery note, I'm going to say thank you, everybody. This has been a lot of fun. Appreciate the insightful comments, and I will hand over to Jean.